Hello, people. I finished a book, Shadow of the Bear, Travels in Vanishing Wilderness. The title's just a little bit misleading because he doesn't do a whole lot of travels in vanishing wilderness, mostly because there's not a whole hell of a lot of wilderness left. I define wilderness as somewhere where there's no people, and everywhere he went there was people, and half the story, maybe even more than half the story, is about the people that live around these bears. There's 8 species of bears left on Earth, and 6 of them are like critically endangered. He travels around the world and tries to see them in the wild. He doesn't really succeed. The book was published in 2006. The author's name is Brian Payton. A lot of times I Google the author's name just to see what else they have written. He writes for a lot of magazines and newspapers. That's in the blurb on the back. It starts out with the Sloth Bear in India. The Sloth Bear is actually like the most dangerous bear in the world. It attacks people all the time. Maybe that's just because there's so many people in proximity to where this bear is living. I don't know. In places like India, nobody knows how many sloth bears are left. Nobody knows what their range is. They are still around. The Indian people, by and large, have a pretty healthy attitude towards the natural world and towards the sloth bears. But they also, people in Asia also use, traditional medicine. So that has led to a lot of these bears being in big trouble. Early on when I was reading this, I made a note here, author's attempts at humor. He kind of stops that in the middle of the book, and especially towards the end, there's no more attempts at humor. I don't know if he's still finding his way in writing, but, there's enough Dave Barrys and Bill Brysons in the world. We don't need, there's nothing funny about the subject of this book, so it goes from the sloth bear to giant pandas, and he's in China, and giant pandas, they're in the wild. There's wonderful maps in the beginning of this book that shows the range and what continent all these bears live on. The giant panda in China is just like a pinprick on the map where it actually survives in the wild. I suppose they won't go extinct because there's so many breeding programs. The Chinese people are pretty weird. They're bending over backwards to save the panda, and there's also these moon bears that live in China and around Asia, and the moon bears, they harvest the bile out of these moon bears, and it was pretty brutal. Some of the paragraphs there, describing what they do to these bears. They fucking put them in a cage where they can smash them, and they can't move. And there is some programs where they're trying to save those bears too, but they're in trouble. Within 100 years, most of these animals will probably be gone. Spectacled bears that live in South America. It's the only bear that lives in South America. That's pretty interesting. The people in South America also have a very healthy respect for the environment. And when I say that, of course, there's going to be people that also are poachers, and especially if they can get some money for the skin or for the bile or anything. Nowhere where these bears live was it perfect. And I got some reading to do there. Second paragraph, page 106. There are no bears in Africa, but they live on all the other continents, except for Antarctica, which is kind of weird. I don't know why. Nothing lives in Antarctica. They're talking about people, getting paws and getting skulls and everything from the spectacle bear. People do these things to get the bear's power because they know about the bear's long sexual endurance. Guerrero explains. I've seen with my own eyes bears mating for an hour and 45 minutes, and if the female moves, the male bites her. Even if the female is tired and falls, he continues fucking her. When you see the bears having sex, you get tired just watching them. So they're they want to try and get the bear's bile or whatever, his skull or whatever, so that they can get a boner again. It goes from Peru to the sun bear in Cambodia, and the sun bear in Cambodia is also in big trouble. Cambodia actually has an awful lot of their jungle left, but they also have a very high population, and they're trying to get these people to stop fucking burning down the forest and slash and burn out, agriculture. That's going on all over the place. I got some more reading. 125, 126. Hopefully you guys can't hear the fucking dogs barking. Also a guy playing music. Oh no, Kennerly says. God, no, not at all. Same for all of Southeast Asia. The best hope for animals like bears, elephants, and tigers is to collect them and put them in zoos. But for the other animals we can still release, like macaques and pangolins, their future is limited as well because there is so much illegal hunting. With all the habitat loss, there is not much future for anything. People want to make as much money as they can in the shortest period of time. They're not interested in the long term. People are just grabbing what they can get. Bears and tigers are great, but we should work hard to protect the less famous species so they don't experience the same fate. They're harder to get excited about. And that's kind of the story where all these bears are living. It's almost the story where all these bears are living. He saves the black bear for the last, and he goes to Colorado for the black bear. In all these areas, Peru, Cambodia, the people are very poor, and they have to eat. They have children, they have to feed their children. They may like the bears, but they're not going to let their kids starve. And he goes to polar bears in Canada. The polar bears will probably be all right as long as they have some ice to fish from, not to fish from, to catch seals from. Canada makes money off of polar bear tourism, so we just need to get a handle on why the ice is less and less every year, and they should be all right. Bottom of 183, top of 184. I started out not liking this book an awful lot, but it's a pretty good book. I don't read a whole lot of environmental stuff. I used to read natural history all the time, but I do from time to time. I read it. And this is the polar bears. As I watch these polar bears on the shore of Hudson Bay, some 2,200 miles away, a gathering of the world's foremost climate and Arctic scientists has taken place in Reykjavik, Iceland. They've convened to finalize and deliver their Arctic climate impact assessment, which incorporates the work of over 300 scientists and the world's top polar research centers. It was 4.5 years in the making. Scientists concluded long ago that rising carbon dioxide levels from human activities are turning up the heat on the planet. But the group's findings are particularly bleak. Contrary to corporate disinformation campaigns and censored government environmental reports, climate change is an observable fact. A fact that has compelled 156 nations to commit to the Kyoto protocol to limit the production of greenhouse gases. The United States, however, the world's biggest polluter, has turned its back on the agreement. He goes from there to the Marsican brown bear in Italy. The brown bear is probably going to be all right for quite some time. It's got a big range in Europe and Asia. It's got a big range in Canada. Biologists now lump the grizzly bear in with the brown bear. And there's several other subspecies. And this Marsican brown bear in Italy is one of them. He starts out at the Colosseum because they undoubtedly used these bears in the Colosseum. And there's a great big park, a reserve in Italy, a mountainous area. It's like 110,000 acres, and that's where these Marsican brown bears live. The rangers have no money to do any research. Nobody knows exactly how many bears are there. They figure their best guess is there's like 30 of them. So those are probably doomed also. There's a big chapter on some cave paintings in France, which was pretty interesting. I don't agree with what their findings were there, but very interesting. I've got a couple of books about cave paintings. It's pretty fucking interesting. Then they go to the black bear in Colorado. The black bear is going to be all right for some time anyway. It has isolated populations in 40 of the United States, and it's all over Canada. They're in Michigan. I was surprised when I looked at the map for Michigan. They're in the entire UP, but they're only in about 1/3 of the lower peninsula. I have seen black bears. I've seen 3 of them. I saw one real skinny one, and I saw 2 humongous black bears. These were the first one was probably a 400-pound animal, and the second one was probably a 300-pound animal. And the 300-pound animal walked on the road about 20 yards from me. I was sitting on the porch drinking coffee. I made a short video of that too. The fucking phone was right behind me. He saves it for last, I think, because all these other people are poor. They have a choice between watching their kids starve and milking a bear for its bile, or selling, killing a bear and selling its paws. But not here, not in Colorado. These people are shooting a bear. I don't know why. When I was a kid, I shot a deer. I used to shoot birds with BB guns. But when I grew up, I saw how that's just fucking useless. I have no urge to do that. Yes, I eat meat, but I eat cows. They're raised for us. Cows are the most successful fucking animal on the planet besides for us. Second paragraph, 251. He's talking about the success of black bears and how well they're doing. Part of their success is due to their superior adaptability to changing conditions and their tolerance of human presence. Black bears are commonly found living on the edge of towns and cities, unprovoked. Predatory attacks on humans by black bears are exceedingly rare but highly sensationalized in the media. During the entire 20th century, only 51 people were killed by black bears. For each person killed by a black bear, approximately 45 were killed by dogs, 120 from bee stings, 249 killed by lightning, and 60,000 were victims of homicide. And I wrote down lunatics in the USA, which is shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody. That we are the craziest fucking nation. Third paragraph, 289. This is how he chooses to end the book. By witnessing a black bear hunt. And they've already killed it. Finally, the dead bear is heaved up onto the tailgate of the truck and lashed to the back of the dog box. They have treated this bear with dogs. Bright blood drips down onto the pavement. The woman who shot the bear says she waited 9 years for her bear permit and is pleased with the result. When I ask her how much meat a bear like this will provide, she wrinkles her nose and shakes her head. Bear meat is no good, she declares. She doesn't eat the flesh of carnivores. Once skinned, the body will be dumped in the woods. And that's what they do. They keep the skin. But they just throw the body in the woods and probably be eaten by a bear. Thanks for watching.